That is embarrassing. That's what I get for not having filmed anything or picked up this camera in 2 months. The holy grail of law school. Did that make any sense? Probably not. Who am I kidding? You guys don't hate me yet. Hey. I am so sorry that it has been weeks, months. It's been a long time since there has been any activity of any sort in terms of my posting videos. To be quite honest, I have not picked up this camera, touched it even, since the beginning of January. It is February 24th. That is embarrassing. And to be quite honest, I don't really have a good reason for it, other than the fact that I was completely unrealistic in my expectations of being able to post a video a week. Being able to film and edit and post a video, one video, every week, no matter what day it was. Unrealistic. I apologize for that. I apologize for setting myself up for failure, and I apologize for disappointing you. But we are back. There are more of you than there were the last time that I posted a video, so you guys don't hate me yet. So that's good. We'll start there. Thank you for being here. My name is Mackenzie Freed. I am a 3L at Boston University School of Law. I'm almost done, less than 100 days until graduation. All of my experiences in law school have led me to create this channel where I share hopefully helpful tips and advice to get you through your own law school journey. Whether you're in the application process just starting out or you're already in law school and trying to survive, I'm here to help. And that's why this channel exists. I put a poll on my channel asking you what the next video was that you wanted to see, and we had a tie between 3 common mistakes new law students make and tips for choosing a law school. We are going to start with 3 common mistakes new law students make. I have a list for you that I've typed out on my phone. I've been keeping a list for quite some time, and I crowdsourced other information, other tips, mistakes that other students made, my classmates, so that you had more perspective than just mine, because everybody's experiences are different, so take all of these with a grain of salt, but these are things that I would go back and change about my first semester, but just first year in general law school experience. So without further ado, let's get started. The first common mistake new law students make is buying all of your textbooks brand new. Hear me out. I know it sounds good in theory. They're fresh, they're brand new, there's no marks, there's no highlighting in them. It's a clean slate, something exciting for you to start this new journey. The books that you are being asked to buy in law school are hundreds of dollars brand new. 300, 400, depending on the book. They are incredibly expensive. That doesn't shock anybody. School textbooks are already obnoxiously expensive, but law school case books are outrageous. I made the mistake of buying every single book brand new. I am a hard copy person, right? You can definitely buy the online version, the PDF version, and if that works for you, that's awesome. My roommate during my first year was an iPad girly, and she loved to have the online book and then take notes in her iPad, and that worked for her. That's great. Me personally, I like to physically highlight, I like to physically take notes in the book, and in my head, buying it brand new was going to be helpful for me because there wouldn't be any other markings in the book, there wouldn't be things that don't adhere to my own personal note-taking system. And because of that, I spent, this is not an exaggeration, over $900 on books during my first semester. $900. I go, like, it still makes me physically ill to think about because that is just an obscene amount of money. And I did that for both semesters. I spent so much money on books. My second year, I discovered that BU has something called the course reserves. When I'm giving tours at the law school, I tell literally every tour group that I have about this because I'm sure that this exists in law schools other than BU. So wherever you end up going to law school, take note because this will save you. There's something called the course reserves where every year the library will ask every professor what books that they're using to teach their courses for that semester. And then the library will contact the publisher of those books and ask them if they can keep a copy on course reserves. Usually they say yes, and then all of the books for all of your classes exist in the library for you to go and check out for free. And then you can take that book to a book scanner and you can scan all 390 some odd pages of that book, and then you can send that PDF of all of those scans to your email, and then if you want, you can print them all out. And that will still be cheaper than buying the book. Literally blew my mind. And since I discovered the course reserves, I had not spent more than $150 on books per semester. It was quite literally a life-changing discovery for me. I feel the need to tell everybody about it because for some reason, no one talks about this. We always talk about buying books new versus renting versus buying used books, etc. And those are also great options. However, you may not have access to that. There were plenty of times that I tried to buy a used book or tried to rent a book and it just wasn't available. So course reserves are the holy grail of law school. They are spectacular. And it doesn't stop with just your case books. There are also so many study aids that my law library has, and I'm absolutely positive that other law schools also give you free access to various study aids that you can use to pass your classes. The second common mistake new law students make is changing everything about your study habits and your note-taking habits when you start law school. I cannot stress this enough. That is a terrible idea. I think I fell prey to this a little bit, but quickly righted that wrong and got back on track. I don't remember who gave me this piece of advice, but I do remember somebody coming and telling us that you don't need to change everything about your study habits when you start law school. And the reason for that is getting into law school is hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes good grades, it takes good scores on the LSAT. You made it to law school. Clearly you were doing something right. So why change what you were doing that was working and like completely throw that out the window when what you were doing got you to law school? And I'll give you an example. I just realized that I had a fan blowing for all of the first part of the video up until now, and you're definitely gonna be able to hear that. I am so sorry. I'll do my best to reduce the noise. Oh, this is what I get for not having filmed anything or picked up this camera in 2 months. I completely have forgotten how to film, how to speak in front of a camera. I truly have no excuse. Anyway, I had a classmate who decided that they were going to type all of their notes instead of handwrite all of their notes. And the reason for that was they heard most people type their notes in law school. Typing will allow you to take more notes because in theory it is faster than handwriting your notes. And then instead of having to spend time like transferring your handwritten notes to your computer so that you have them all in one place and can add to them, change them, go back and clarify, etc., they're already there. They already exist. You have effectively cut out a step. The problem is that classmate handwrites way faster than they type. And because of that, they're effectively losing out on things that they could have written down, things that the professor said, important points, because they chose to type their notes when they could handwrite faster. This goes for both going from handwriting to typing or from typing to handwriting. Me personally, I type way faster than I write, not even a question. However, there is a lot of data about the fact that your retention is better if you handwrite it as opposed to type it. And if I am writing so slow that I miss a very important point, then it wouldn't matter whether I was handwriting or typing because I wouldn't have written it down. All of that to say, whatever note-taking system that you have been using, or study habits and things like that, keep those up when you start law school. Now, that is not to say that you can't tweak things or change things as you go. I think a great rule of thumb is to try out a system during your first semester. If it seems like it's working well, you are retaining the material, you are taking good notes that you think are hitting all of the points that are important for your professor, great. After your first semester, when you've taken exams, you've gotten your grades back, then you can reassess your note-taking strategies and your study habits. If something worked really well, keep doing it. Roll it over into the second semester. If things didn't turn out quite the way that you wanted, why not try to tweak something? Maybe try a different study technique, maybe try a different reading schedule, maybe try a different note-taking strategy. And there's plenty of them out there, and something different works for everybody. So, all of that to say, don't feel like you need to change everything about your study habits, your note-taking habits when you start law school just because, ooh, I'm in law school now and I have to do things differently for this new educational experience. Because that's not the case. You'll probably serve yourself better by doing something that is tried and true and reliable than by trying to start a brand new system that you've never used before during a very stressful time in your life. My third and final official common mistake that new law students make is choosing not to build your network as early as possible in your law school career. My experience was a little bit different because I started law school in 2020, so in-person events and in-person networking opportunities were unavailable, to say the least. I did have to get creative in the way that I networked, but it's so easy to get bogged down in all of the work that you have to do. You know me by now. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Law school is a lot of work. It's really freaking hard. It can be really easy to sort of let yourself become overwhelmed in just the schoolwork that you have to do, the assigned work, the readings and the studying. Don't let that eclipse and overshadow the networking opportunities that will be available to you when you start law school. The earlier that you can build your network, the larger network that you'll have. I don't think I even realized how important it was when I started doing it. I really was just reaching out to practicing attorneys and alumni to try to get an idea of what the heck I, as a first-gen student, was doing in terms of getting career advice. I really was just seeking out information for myself because I felt like I didn't know anything. So I reached out to my university's alumni relations office and asked them to put me in touch with attorneys. If there's one thing that I think I'm going to miss about law school, I know. Who would have thought that I, of all people, would be saying that there is something that I am going to miss about law school? And yet, here we are. The only thing that I'm going to miss about law school, it's the fact that you get to trade on your status as a student and you can ask practicing attorneys for literally anything. Most of the time, especially if they're younger attorneys, they have started practicing more recently, they are so willing to take 20 to 30 minutes out of their day and answer your questions. You do not have that same sort of access when you are no longer a student. Take advantage of it. Send all of the cold emails. The job that I had between my first and second years of law school, I got that job because I networked. And one thing led to another that led to another, and that's how I got that position. Never would have gotten that position if I hadn't sent a couple of emails, done a couple of interviews, or had a couple of coffee chats over Zoom. You never know. You never know what could happen. During your first and second year especially, there are so many networking opportunities that will be hosted by different clubs and organizations at your law school. The law school itself will host various networking events with different employers, and there are so many opportunities. It's actually kind of overwhelming. Don't feel like you have to go to every event, even though there is free food. And I highly recommend taking advantage of the free food, even if that employer doesn't particularly interest you. That's a hack, law school hack, free tip. Don't feel like you need to go to every single event. Obviously, be smart with your time, make sure that you're still able to get all of your work done, but know that there is a lot of value to be had in building your network now. Even if that just looks like reaching out to recent graduates and asking them questions, or reaching out to an attorney and asking if you can meet with them for a few minutes to gain some insight into their career. It will serve you so well just to start, first of all, getting comfortable with networking, because it is a cultivated skill and you need to practice in order to get good at it and stay good at it, but also because you never know what opportunities can come through you just reaching out to ask some questions. And I will piggyback that with another common mistake that a friend of mine gave me when I was crowdsourcing information for you, and that one is not talking to upperclassmen. If you're a first year, not talking to second year students and third year students, because they have a lot of valuable insight about classes to take, professors that are great. When I was a first year, I got paired with a third year students for a coffee chat through one of the affinity groups on my law school campus, and that was probably the most influential 30 minutes that I have had in all of my law school career. She took the time to type out, she literally typed it out and sent it to me, this sheet that had recommended classes. It had all of the degree requirements, the things that you need to do in order to graduate, how I could satisfy those, because there's 5 different ways that you can satisfy each of the degree requirements. Great professors that she didn't really like, classes that she loved, classes she didn't really like, and tips for balancing the types of classes, since there are also multiple types of classes. It was so incredibly helpful, and I took her advice on literally every single one of those things. To this day, it is the most valuable advice I've gotten about law school from another student. So much so that when I was paired with a 1L, I edited that document and sent it to her as well, because it was so valuable to me and I thought that it was so helpful that I wanted to pass along. Pay it forward, if you will. There is so much value to be gained from talking to second year and third year students when you're just starting out your law school journey, because there's a lot of information that they have that they're more than willing to share, things that you just don't really know until you know, and it would be a shame to miss out on that information just because you didn't think about asking a second year or third year. They are a wealth of information. We have now reached the part of our program where I'm going to talk about honorable mentions for common mistakes that new law students make. The first one is not going to office hours. I know that that is a really common recommendation in all of the law school self-help books that you'll probably hear from every student panel ever if you attend one. In reality, not going to office hours is a terrible idea, in my humble opinion. I think I fell into the trap where I didn't have any questions, so I didn't feel like I needed to go to office hours. But I figured out that by going to office hours, I could just sit and listen to other questions that students had. That was incredibly helpful, because a lot of times those were questions that I had never thought about. And because I just happened to be sitting there, I got the benefit of them having thought about that question and having the professor answer it. Highly recommend going to office hours if you have questions, because obviously the person who's best suited to answer your questions is the person who's writing the exam for the class that you're taking. But even if you don't have questions, just going, sitting in office hours and listening to other students' questions is also incredibly helpful. My last honorable mention is a controversial one. Take everything with a grain of salt. I'm just telling you what works for me. My last honorable mention for common mistakes that new law students make is waiting too long to start outlining. For those of you who don't know, an outline is what we in law school call a study guide. So you take notes throughout the entire semester, and then there's a single exam at the end of the semester that is your entire grade. To study for that exam, you make what's called an outline that has all of the important rules, case examples, and illustrations that demonstrate those rules, and you put them all in one document. We call that an outline. It's a giant study guide. Now, for anybody who's watching this who is a law student, who went to law school, or is a professor, who am I kidding? Literally no professor is going to sit here and watch this video. That's hilarious. For anybody who's watching this, who's been through it and been told that you should wait until October to start outlining, I get it. The idea is that you don't know how to outline, so don't start too early, because otherwise you'll build bad habits, or you just won't really know what you're doing and it won't be as productive. My personal opinion on that is nothing is going to happen between September and the end of October that will magically teach you how to outline. I don't think there's any harm in starting earlier rather than later. In fact, I highly recommend it, because the later that you wait to start outlining, the more material that you have to cover that you've already been through during the beginning of your course in order to catch up to where you are in the course in the present moment. Did that make any sense? Probably not. Let's try that again. When you're outlining, you are reviewing material that you've already covered in class, and you're condensing it, crystallizing it, and putting it in outline format, just the important things. If you wait to start outlining until later in the semester, you have, let's say, 6 weeks of material that you have to get through and outline before you even get to the material that you're currently covering in that class. That was way better. Because of that, it takes you a lot longer to get caught up to the present time. My humble opinion, and I think this actually pairs really well with the going to office hours recommendation. The earlier that you start outlining, let's say you started 3 weeks into the semester, the earlier you start outlining, the earlier you'll realize what questions or clarifications that you have or want in that material. Like if you're going through a particular section and you're like, I actually don't know what this means, or I don't know how to apply this, then you can go to office hours and ask that question of your professor earlier in the semester when that material is still fresh in your mind. If you wait until you're 6 weeks past when you learned it, you're gonna have questions about everything. So my opinion is to start your outline earlier because one, you have the chance to recognize any confusion or any questions that you might have that you want the professor to clarify earlier. And second, you don't have this giant backlog of information that you need to outline before you can even start working on the material that you're currently covering. You will serve yourself better by just starting to outline, even if you don't know what you're doing, because literally nobody does when you start law school. Nobody knows how to outline. Even if you wait until the end of October to start outlining, you're still not gonna know how to outline. So I don't really think there's any harm in starting earlier rather than later, if for no other reason that it will allow you to figure out what questions you have about the material that you've already covered sooner so that you can go to office hours and ask those questions of the professor. Wow guys, we did it. We filmed another video. We posted another video. Truly didn't know when this was gonna happen, but I'm glad it's now. Glad we finally got there together. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And if there are any other current law students, former law students, practicing attorneys who have common mistakes that either you yourself made while you were in law school or that you have seen other law students make, feel free to drop them below as well. Share the information. Don't gatekeep. No one likes that. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll have another video out for you soon. We did it.